Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are. Welcome to another Workplace Wednesday with Fee and Z, Felicia Rickards and Zena Collins. If you have been tuning in for the last few weeks, you will know that this is our 10th Workplace Wednesday. How did that happen so quickly?
No idea, but I'm excited. That's a milestone.
Right, that's what happens when you're having fun. So we have reduced the time. We've learned lots of things over those 10 weeks. So we do a 30-minute session rather than 60 minutes, which is where we started. But if we have special guests in the future, we may extend the time. But this week, we are focusing on 5 things that Felicia learned about emotional intelligence from the MSCEIT2 pilot course that I ran starting yesterday. So it's 2 days. It's the first Train-the-Trainer course that I've done in MSCEIT2. I've been certified as someone who can assess people for the last 15 years. But this is the first time that I piloted running the MSCEIT Train-the-Trainer course. And we will be doing them every month from this point going forward. But I had some people that I really respect join the pilot just so we could go through the material and make sure that what we're offering has real value and real application, whether you're a leader or whether you're a coach, whether you are a counselor or any profession, particularly high emotional labor role profession. So we thought today was well timed to have a deep dive with Felicia, someone who you all know I respect highly, to find out her perspective. She's straight no chaser. So that's why her opinion counts for me. Love to hear, what did you learn about emotional intelligence from the MSCEIT course, your top 5 things?
Top 5, yeah. Well, to set the stage, as you know, I spend my time in consulting scenarios for transformation, change, and coaching for high performance. So my question to you was, how do you really think this is relevant for me so that I can apply immediately? So likewise, I respect you as well. But I get loads of people saying to me, oh, I have this program, or I have this certification, and I have this, and you should. And I really have to manage my time and also make sure that, as I'm investing in myself as a lifelong learner, that I can return on that investment make sure it's applicable to my craft, my expertise. So I just wanted to set the stage. And you did answer my questions very eloquently and professionally. So now that I'm kind of rolled up my sleeves and participating with this cohort of, some brilliant minds, I'm excited. And one of the first things that really stood out to me, so this is the first, number 5.5, was the progression from, I should say, emotions, that initial 6-second reaction, to feeling. So now we're developing, it's manifesting in maybe in negative ways and developing, and then lingering into a mood. Now, if you apply that, the brilliance is, my first instinct is, okay, so how do I apply this in professional consulting coaching application? And then also, ta-da, real everyday life, right? So that emotion being the initial reaction, the kind of, we'll get into this, but a flash of maybe nonverbal cues, picking up on somebody else's responses and their way of speaking to you, maybe without actually verbalizing. So those emotions are usually transferred in some way. And someone who is really skilled in emotional intelligence, or more specifically, using this model in MSCEIT2, will be able to pick up and adapt much quickly than someone who may say, oh, she'll get over it, or he'll get over it. Or maybe I misunderstood. So that was critical for me, because as this progresses, realizing that if it festers, now I've got a feeling, and that feeling is lingering within me, or that person, and it's going to affect either the relationship, be it business or personal, and it's also going to affect the team dynamics as well. And for that to continue to fester, then you have a cloud, as they sometimes put on, animation, a cloud of mood where you can really feel it. It's palpable. And that dynamic then is, you really have to do extra work to kind of walk that back to a highly functioning team. So for me, that right away struck as immediately something that I could apply in, kind of high performance coaching, team transition, and change management.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. But similarly, it becomes your personality, and you get known for your mood. If you don't have the ability or the tools to shift and change that, which can create barriers to relationships. So, yeah, that's something that I've experienced on a number of the assessments that I do, that people don't have an understanding of the difference between the three. And that, creates barriers to the way they're able to interpret situations or change their behaviors. So what was your number two? So
no, I was just going to say really quickly, I forgot to mention in myself, then also just in this short time, even though I did complete the assessment myself, because that's important, I've been able to recognize those where my emotion is lingering and developing, and then obviously being able to kind of walk it back before a mood sets in. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. The self-regulation.
Right. Because the reality is that if we apply it to ourselves, then we've got more ability to empathize with others. And the less we apply it, the less ability we have to, provide instruction to others or understand the different levels of capacity that different people have based on their different jobs, life experiences, etc. So yeah. So number two, what was your number two?
So the next really, this is perfect, is around self-leadership. You will hear me say a couple of things over and over. One is leaders' primary role is to create other leaders. And in that function, we have to first be self-aware. And I think most people understand that. But that self-awareness is even more important now in an environment where socially, economically, politically, professionally, the turmoil seem to be not only bubbling over, but spewing over is probably a better term. So the self-awareness is really, really critical, because the conversations, the environment in the workplace, navigating what individual circumstances are within your team, and how you either understand how to manage your own reactions and emotions, and how to navigate how to bring your best self in order to keep everybody on track. I think that's where I was going with that comment. So that's personal growth as a leader, which is really important, because leaders, if we think back to kind of maybe baby boomers, I'm generalizing a little bit, really were skilled at a task, and that's why they were elevated to leadership. Leadership is so much more than that now. Not just being good at a task, is about bringing others along and creating more people who are highly functioning. Being able to make, optimal decisions, quickly assess the situation in front of you, the situation you're being faced with, presented with, and making quick and optimal decisions to benefit the team, but also to benefit the company as well. And interpreting kind of what's going on based on your understanding of either facial cues, as we've practiced using this model, some other visual cues. So just understanding how we are interpreting and, relating to individuals. So those have been really critical. So that will be my second one.
Yeah. And that really leans into this idea that it's an ability. So it's not talking about what you typically do or what you prefer to do. Do you have the ability to use your emotions and make decisions to have better outcomes, even if it isn't alignment with the way that you prefer to behave or act in situations?
Yeah, that part. Because we default to our natural selves very easily.
Right.
So the work is, yeah, normally I would, give them a little piece of my mind, or normally I would give them a little, little
Right,
something snappy, but maybe that's not appropriate in this example.
right. And it's the idea of like 1% or 1 to 5% is the time that we are really conscious, and the rest of the time we are operating in an unconscious way. So if we've developed habits and behaviors that aren't necessarily helpful, then unless we use some of these tools to increase our level of self-awareness, it's very difficult to change what we can't see or what we're not aware of.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I mean, even in a couple of the case studies that we looked at in the training, you could almost feel how an individual might react in a particular situation. We have the benefit of reading it and interpreting it with, context.
Yes.
But as an individual who is operating your normal natural self as a human being, your default is, really quick, a quick reaction. So having the benefit of, I guess, deconstructing what you might usually do and what serves you best. I think that's a good way to put it. What actually serves you best. What you would usually do doesn't always serve you best. So that's a good way to put it in terms of the self-leadership component.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in your viewpoint in terms of the idea of what serves you best, particularly when you're coaching people, leaders, in terms of getting the best outcomes and making sure that everybody's clear. And we talked about that in other sessions, that if people aren't clear what the goal is or what you're trying to achieve, then expectations of managing their performance or their behaviors, it's going to be very difficult. So just interested in terms of your thoughts on that. So number 3, what was your number 3?
And then, of course, there's leadership of others. So we just spoke about self-leadership, but just now understanding you have a group of people who you are tasked with leading and getting the best from them from a professional and somewhat personal perspective as well. Knowing and understanding what relationships, really, nonverbal cues, emotions, getting to understand which people might need a bit more conversation around, particular topic, which people might operate in a particular way in a meeting session or group dynamics, and knowing how to kind of pull the best from the person, knowing what those cues are, and understanding where individuals might be strong and resilient and others might need a little more, I don't want to use the word feedback, I want to come to that. Others might need a little more encouragement. And then the feedback part, we spoke about that a few weeks ago, really cheekily, should we ban workplace feedback? In using the MSCEIT2 model, this is if you're going to use workplace feedback, this is a prerequisite by far, in my opinion, to developing that feedback muscle. Feedback should be part of a full relationship and part of understanding all of these dynamics. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as well.
Yeah, I think that is key. And what I was learning from the group was this idea of people's different capacity to deal with emotions based on their environment and their profession. And some people who are in high emotional labor roles are practicing this all the time. And you could see people who had become like really proficient at that. So their main focus was on how do they then manage themselves based on having to absorb all of these unpleasant emotions and holding space for others. So I thought that was interesting in conversation.
Yeah, and one thing that came to mind during the training was the topic that comes up a lot in the workplace now is resilience. And as you know, from a Gen X perspective, the systems crash, we're calm, cool, and collected. Okay, well, we're fine. Maybe not so much, for different generations, because that reliance on technology is much more firm, and perhaps a lack of practice in other methods of getting to the same result, the final result. So the resilience is not of any generation. But when you have a workplace that's multi-generation, as most of us do, it's important to understand why this individual is cool, calm, and collected, because they know to pull out a pencil and, write a few notes and come to the result, where someone else may have been raised in a click to buy generation. And when that click is not working, then the buy is broken.
And so having the ability to have empathy by seeing it from someone else's perspective, and like having a framework to go through that process. So interested in your number 4. What was your number 4?
Was centered around the 4 domains, to be honest, because we had spoken about that when you debriefed my own assessment results. Now I have a deeper understanding of those domains and how they flow and how relevant they are, from perceiving, connecting, understanding, and then managing emotions, because that flow, even though it's detailed, can happen in a trained mind quite quickly. So the goal in learning and developing this muscle, as I would call it, working in a team, a transformation or change or a coaching perspective, as a coaching leader, which everybody should be doing at this stage, is, how do I condense the time where I go through that 4 steps, through these domains: perceiving, connecting, understanding, managing emotions, so that I am not stressed as a leader trying to navigate my entire team and feeling like, oh my goodness, I have to manage the team and then I have to manage my workload. So the ability to condense the time that it takes to be able to make that decision, an optimal decision, is really critical. So this is a muscle that I want to continue to develop myself. And I'm particularly interested in how I apply my understanding of the 4 domains, and of course, transfer that knowledge or that muscle use to other people.
I love the way you describe it as a muscle, because that's exactly what it is. If you don't use it, you lose it. And so some of the other models of emotional intelligence, they talk about sort of more personality traits, and they don't lean in as much. They're useful for data, and they can give you some really helpful insights, particularly if you do a 360 with other people, rather than just your own self-reported perception of your emotional intelligence skills. But what the MSCEIT supplements with that is actually demonstrating, are you using the muscle, or do you even have the muscle? So thinking about Gen Z, and again, it's generalizations, not all of Gen Z, but just in terms of themes and trends, are we actually helping people to develop it as a foundational skill? And if we're not, how do we do that better? Because we can't expect them to have the ability if we're not even giving them the basic foundational experiences to practice that muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. There are ways to do that in the workplace, in safe spaces and safe projects, internal projects, to feel, what that process, that progression is, and also really to apply that to a learning development and maybe even failure through that. Yeah.
We talked about it on previous LinkedIn Lives, Amy Edmondson's books around psychological safety and the idea of fail as well. And I think that, in the sense of, to your point, creating safe spaces, having emotionally intelligent leaders who can create safe spaces where people can fail well, so they can feel those unpleasant emotions and have the resilience to get over them, rather than using the technology to perform as if they know what they're doing, but actually don't have the physiological or psychological experience of doing that. And so I was reading a comment by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who was saying that some young people are making decisions without asking ChatGPT first. And so there's a whole process that's missing to be able to make the decisions. And so if things don't go right, then that whole infrastructure crumbles, because they haven't taken the actual steps to go through it, fail and then have to pick themselves up again and deal with the discomfort of knowing that they're not a perfect human being.
Yeah, it's such a disadvantage, and in my opinion, it's something that the workplace is going to be seriously challenged with. If you think of being raised with technology as a permanent source of information, and I already mentioned click to buy, and then we kind of had the ask Google. So if you think of sitting around with friends and family, oh, what movie was so and so in, whatever actor, and we go around, and everybody would try to remember, and we'd be flexing our brains, and somebody would get it right, and that excitement in somebody getting it right was the goal, right? But now the instant response is to go in and ask technology, right? So there is never any turning of those wheels. There's never any activation of the feel good endorphins and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, now we've substituted ChatGPT as give me the answer, not as this is what I put forward. Can you make sure that it's accurate? Which is really the optimal use of ChatGPT. So we have a dangerous trend emerging.
Yeah. So it definitely, we talk about it should be another team member, not a replacement of your brain, if you're going to be using it. So the need for critical thinking and critical skills is going to be something that needs, like you said, environments. We need to create environments where we're developing those muscles. So what was your number 5?
So my number 5, actually for me in terms of application is, wow, how important I'm realizing this is in the work that I do. So in change and transformation projects, in working with individuals who are seeking to become the best in their field or to climb the ranks within their organizations. And usually they're working in environments where they're facing either opposition, perceived or actual opposition. So all of this is so important. If a leader is going to face an employee group or team members or company and issue, let's say it's a town hall meeting, and speak about, we're going to go on this change project because ABC, no matter what it is, either we're going to downsize or we're going to change our services or we're going to change how we operate. It's important to be able to frame what the expectations are before we create a topsy-turvy environment, before we create dysfunction when we don't need to. So just in kind of rereading and internalizing all of these like the 4 domains, all of everything I've mentioned already, it's so important in terms of my application. Now, and what it is now, of course, if it's important for my application, then it's important for any workplace. And I'm going to point back to the personal, because we are, as human beings, we are multidimensional, and our world of relationships don't stop when we leave the workplace. Yeah. So then what happens when we're in our friend group? What happens when we're in our family environments? And then we can continue to, like we said earlier, kind of build these muscles and practice, how we're observing, how we're making note, how we're making decisions, how we are bringing others into what we perceive is happening, and just checking to make sure that we're accurate in terms of our perception. So it's for me, it's a no-brainer in terms of application.
So we completed day 1, and we have a day in between just for integration and people to spend time on the things that they need to catch up with, because as we said, we're not just robots going into the office, we have personal lives that we're also navigating as well. So we try to design the program in an emotionally intelligent way as well. So day 2, tomorrow, we're going to be doing practicing of the feedback session. We use this framework in the session in terms of the 3 questions, and I borrowed this from a colleague of mine, Sean Coker, who creates amazing growth mindset style training programs and is an organizational change architect. So in the training program that I delivered with him, we often ask, what are you wondering? What are you noticing? And what are you thinking? So what are you wondering about the session tomorrow? What are you thinking? And what do you hope to feel?
Wondering, thinking, and feel. So wondering what other magic I'll be able to unlock. Because truly I'm excited about how much of a game changer this will be for me. Because I have associates who, in some way, shape, or form, are more specialists in EQ, but haven't really fully explored how it relates to me and my toolkit. So I'm thinking this is an absolute no-brainer in terms of what I would call my toolkit, because when you're working in different scenarios with different people, different dynamics, you cannot use the same approach in every company, every organization, or for every person. So I literally kind of consider myself as having that toolkit to pull from in as the situation arises or as the scenario develops. But this is a toolkit that is adaptable to probably every scenario that I've faced in the past. So that tells me it will become my go-to. And then, so wondering, thinking, feeling, that was the final?
Yeah. Wondering, thinking, feeling.
Yeah, I'm feeling excited to get through the other modules. I only have a couple of modules left, and then being able to apply that to this group, because this group is really dynamic, switched on. And they're helping me because it's the session is later in the day for me than it is for them. So they're helping to bring me along because it's keeping my brain firing. So just being able to draw from this cohort and being able to kind of connect from other people's perspectives as well, which I think is important, because you can be within a field or work within a certain framework for so long that you forget to kind of expand. So I'm really looking forward to being able to draw from this cohort as well.
Awesome. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning, we will be running them every month. And so starting from August, they will be the last Tuesday and Thursday of the month. If you want to find out more, you can go to brandstrategy.llc. That's brandstrategy.llc. And sign up for the waiting list. And when there's a space in a month program, we will send you an email and set up a discovery call to find out if it's a fit for you. The session filled me with so much. I was tired and fatigued by the end of it, because holding a room of 12 people from different places in the world is emotionally tiring, but it was really inspiring as well. And I was excited that this will bring real value. And my business partner, who is also my husband, shared at the very beginning of the program that we're on as he called it, crusade to increase these skills in the workplace based on the challenges that people typically having to navigate with organizations that have a lack of these skills, and how sometimes people are also struggling to use these skills at home. So if we're building these skills in the workplace, there's a double benefit. So we hope to certify 432 practitioners by 2027. So it's a huge goal, but we think if there's more people in organizations, in families, in social settings, in every place, then there's a way that we can create much more psychologically safe environments for all of us.
Yeah, and just I guess to help close before I forget this thought, if we, as everybody, look at how humans are interacting with each other in public, in travel spaces, in public buildings, on the street, on the sidewalks, it really is looking like we have lost the ability to use all of these tools, or whether or not people have been taught. I'm just going to throw that out there. So the uses are not just applicable for business. Um, and they'll be really important in so many different settings. It could be in school settings. It could be for myself, even as a mediator, I'm looking to increase kind of my mediation encounters, and this is an absolute no-brainer when we're looking at groups of people who seemingly are at loggerheads. So this is, and we see it manifesting, on every kind of news clip and social media. So we're at the stage where we have to really learn how to intervene and navigate what's going on in the community.
Well, it's always a pleasure having this conversation, and I know it's the end of the day. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you look lovely, so I know that you are on your way out to something. So,
I am not. I'm looking lovely just for this. This Workplace Wednesday conversation has become a core part of my calendar, and I'm really enjoying the framework that we've set up. I'm enjoying the feedback that we get from individuals who listening to us live, and also after come back and say, I missed it live, but here are my thoughts. It's really encouraging me, as I know it is you, to continue and have these real conversations.
yeah. So here's to episode 100.
Yes, we're on the way.
90 more to go. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for tuning in if you're watching the replay. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yep. Thank you, Zena. See you then.
See you then.